Welcome back to Minding Mind, Part 8, which will probably also be an A and a B, because this one's pretty long as well. Here we go. Zen Master Ejo, E-J-O. Absorption in the Treasury of Light. There is a chapter on light in the Shobogenzo. The reason for writing this essay now, in addition, is just to bring out the essential substance, the fact that the countenance of Buddhism is absorption in the treasury of light. This is the unobstructive application of inconspicuous practice, carried out by oneself and influencing others, proper to people who have studied Zen for a long time and have entered its inner sanctum. The so-called treasury of light is the root source of all Buddhas, the inherent being of all living creatures, the total substance of all phenomenon, the treasury of the great light of spiritual powers of complete awareness. The three bodies, four knowledges, and states of absorption numerous as atoms in every aspect of reality, all appear from within this. The flower ornament scripture says, "The great light of the lamp-like illuminant is supreme among auspicious signs. That Buddha has entered this hall, so this place is most auspicious." This great light of the lamp-like illuminant pervades the universe without differentiating between the mundane and the sacred. Thus, that Buddha has entered this hall, the reception of "thus once I heard" is itself having entered this hall. Because this place is therefore most auspicious, Shakyamuni Buddha received indications of future direction from the lamp-like illuminant. Because this one light extends throughout all time, if there were any attaining it, then it would have to be twofold. The scripture on the miraculous enlightenment of Vairocana attaining Buddhahood says, in the book on entering the state of mind of the method of mystical spells, "At that time the Blessed One said to the thunderbolt bearer, 'The will for enlightenment is the causal basis, great compassion is the root, skill and means is the ultimate.' O Master of the Secret, what is enlightenment? It means knowing your own mind as it really is. This unexcelled, complete, perfect enlightenment, in which there is nothing at all that can be attained. Why? Because the form of it is enlightenment. It has no knowledge and no understanding. Why? Because enlightenment has no form. Master of the Secret, the formless of all things is called the form of space." Same scripture says, "Master of the Secret, the practice of the great vehicle awakens the mind that transports you to the unconditioned, guided by selflessness. Why? Those who have cultivated this practice in the past have observed the basis of the clusters of mental and physical elements, and know they are like illusions, mirages, shadows, echoes, rings of fire, castles in the air. Master of the Secret, thus they relinquish the selfless, and the host of the mind autonomously awakens to the fundamental non-arousal of the essential mind. Why? Because what is before mind and what is after mind cannot be apprehended. Thus, knowing the nature of the essential mind, you transcend 2 eons of yoga practice. The fact that before and after cannot be apprehended means that the light of great knowledge of Vairocana is like this because the essential mind is fundamentally unaroused. Flower ornament scripture says, "The body of the Buddha radiates great light of infinite colors, perfectly pure, like clouds covering all lands, everywhere extolling the virtues of Buddhahood. All who are illumined by the light rejoice. Beings with pains have them all removed. Everyone is inspired with respect and develops a compassionate heart. This is the independent function of enlightenment. The same scripture says, in the Book on Awakening by Light, at that time the light passed 100,000 worlds and illuminated 1,000,000 worlds in the east. The same thing occurred in the south, west, north, 4 intermediate directions, zenith and the nadir. Everything in all of those worlds was clearly revealed. At that time, the enlightening being of Manjushri in each place spoke up simultaneously before the Buddha, in each place uttering this verse: the enlightened one is supremely independent, transcending the world, relying on nothing, imbued with all virtuous qualities, liberated from all that exists, undefiled, unattached, free from imagination, without fixations. His substance and essence cannot be measured. Those who see him all utter praise. His light is everywhere, pure and clear. The burdens of the senses are washed away. Without moving, he detaches from the 2 extremes. This is the knowledge of the enlightened one. So, the knowledge of the enlightened is light, a concentration of light, of immutable knowledge beyond the 2 extremes of ordinary and holy, or absolute and conventional. It is the light of the non-conceptual knowledge of Manjushri, who represents great knowledge. This becomes manifest in the effortlessness of simply sitting. For this reason, Vairocana said to the Master of the Secret, the practice of the great vehicle awakens the mind that transports you to the unconditioned, guided by selflessness. The 3rd patriarch of Zen said, do not seek reality, just stop views. Obviously there is no ego in the treasury of light of the vehicle of the unconditioned, no opinionated interpretation. Ego and opinions are different names of spirit heads and ghost faces. This is just the light alone, not setting in any opinions or views, from the idea of self and ego to the ideas of Buddha and Dharma. Let us clearly hear transcendent wisdom being likened to an enormous mass of fire. The Lotus of Truth scripture says, at that time the Buddha radiated a light from the white hair between his eyebrows, illuminating 80,000 worlds in the east, pervading them all, to the lowest hells below, as well as to the highest heavens above. So this auspicious sign of light is the foremost, rarest of all spiritual lights perfected by the Buddhas. The great being Manjushri said, in answer to the question of the Maitreya, this very auspicious sign of light appeared in ancient times, when the Buddha, named illuminate like a lamp, made of the sun and moon, expounded the great vehicle, entering into absorption into the sphere of infinite meaning. Now Shakyamuni Buddha must be going to expound the teaching of the lotus blossom of sublime truth, which is for enlightening beings and kept in mind by Buddhas. So, end quote, so we should know that this light is the universal illumination of matchless, peerless, great light, completely filled with infinite meaning. The great being Manjushri was at that time called the enlightening being of sublime light, and was the 8th son of the Buddha, called illuminate like a lamp, made of the sun and moon, who enabled him to stabilize unsurpassed enlightenment. The last one to attain Buddhahood was called the burning lamp Buddha. Hence we know that the sitting meditation of our school is absorption in the treasury of light, inherited directly from the burning lamp and Shakyamuni. What other doctrine might there be? This is the light that is not two in ordinary people and sages. That is one vehicle in past and present. It does not let anything inside out, and does not let anything outside in. Who would randomly backslide into a cramped boredom within the context of discriminatory social and personal relationships? It cannot be grasped. It cannot be abandoned. Why suffer because of emotional consciousness, grasping and rejecting, hating and loving? Furthermore, it's chilly. It's getting colder, children. It's getting much colder. Where are we at? So we should know that this light is universally illuminated. We already read that. Hence we know. Sitting meditation of our school is absorption of the treasury of light inherited directly from the burning lamp in Sakyamuni. What other doctrine might there be? This is the light that is not two in ordinary people and sages. That is one vehicle in past and present. It does not let anything inside out, and does not let anything outside in. Though who would randomly backslide into cramped boredom within the context of discriminatory social and personal relationships? It cannot be grasped, cannot be abandoned. Why suffer because of emotional consciousness, grasping and rejecting, hating and loving? Furthermore, in the book on comfortable behavior, in the Lotus Scripture, Manjushri is told, great enlightening beings dwell in a state of forbearance, gentle, docile, and not rough, their minds undisturbed, and they do not ruminate over things, but see the real character of things, and do not act indiscriminately. This is simply sitting without acting indiscriminately. One thereby goes along with conformity in the great light. A verse from the same book says, delusion conceives of things as existent or non-existent, as being real or unreal, as born or unborn. In an uncluttered place, concentrate your mind. Remain steady and unmoving, like a polar mountain. Observe that all phenomena have no existence, that they are like space, without solid stability, neither being born nor emerging. Unmoving, unflagging, abide in oneness. This is called the place of nearness. This is a direct indication, only expounding the unexpelled way, getting straight to the point and setting aside expedients. In China, the great Master Bodhidharma replied to the question of an emperor about the ultimate meaning of the holy truths. He said, empty, nothing holy. This is the great massive fire of light of the Zen of the founding teachers. Crystal clear on all sides, there is nothing in it at all. Outside of this light, there is no separate practice, no different principle, much less any knowledge or objects. How could there be any practice and cultivation, or deliberate effort to achieve specific remedies? The emperor said to Bodhidharma, who is replying to me? And Bodhidharma said, don't know. This is simply the single light that is empty. Later, Zen Master Zhudo wrote a eulogy of this antidote. Empty, nothing holy. How to discern the point? Who is replying to me? Don't know, he says. If you can attain freedom and ease by absorption in this cone, the entire body is luminous. The whole world is luminous. The great Master Yunmen, 39th generation from the Buddha, said to a group in a lecture, "All people have a light, but when they look at it, they do not see it, so it is obscure. What is everyone's light?" No one replied. So the master himself said it in their behalf. "The communal hall, the Buddha shrine, kitchen pantry, the mountain gate." Now, when the great master says that everyone has a light, he does not say it is to appear later on, or that it existed in the past, nor that it becomes apparent to view from the side. He's stating that everyone has a light. This is exactly what is meant in the overall sense by the light of great wisdom. It should be heard and retained, enjoyed and applied in the skin, the flesh, the bones, and the marrow. My itchy. Hair is itchy. My harrow marrow. Experiencing the light of itchiness upon it at this particular moment. The light is everyone. Shakyamuni and Maitreya are its servants. What is not more in Buddhas or less in ordinary beings is this spiritual light. So it is existent in all. It is the whole earth as a single mass of fire. The master said, "What is everyone's light?" At that time, the assembly made no reply. Even if there had been 100,000 apt statements, there would still have been no reply. Yunmen answered himself on their behalf. The communal hall, the Buddha shrine, the kitchen pantry, the mountain gate. And answering himself on their behalf is answering himself on everyone's behalf. Answering himself on behalf of the light. Answering himself on behalf of obscurity. Answering himself on behalf or in behalf of the assembly's lack of response. It is absorption in the treasury of light awakening and bringing forth its radiant light. This being so, it does not question whether you are ordinary people or Buddhas. It does not discriminate between sentient and inanimate beings. Having always been shining everywhere, the light has no beginning, no location. That is why it is obscure. It is what? It is traveling at night. It is impossible to conceive even in a billion eons. Also, a monk asked Yunmen, "The light silently shines throughout countless worlds." Before he had even finished posing his question, Yunmen quickly asked back, "Are these not the words of a famous poet?" The monk said, "They are." Yunmen said, "You are trapped in words." Hail to the ancient Buddha Yunmen! His eyes were fast as comets, his mind swift as lightning. At this point, the monk was speechless. Who would not be ashamed? I see, I love how the old Zen guys get just as excited about the old Zen guys as I do. Oh, don't worry, babies. We'll get to Yunmen. He's heavy, dude. He's heavy. You need a few more light, what don't sound like Zen books yet. That's just my opinion. You're free to comment your own opinions. You're free to like my opinion. And you're free to subscribe for some more of my opinions and absurdities. Yes. Is that 30 seconds? It's time for a short. I hope that was 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. Back to business. Zen Master Zufing, instructing a group, said, "The Buddhas of all times turned the great wheel of the teaching in flames of fire." Yunmen said, "The flames of fire expound the teaching to the Buddhas of all times. The Buddhas of all times stand there and listen. So the light of flames of fire is the sight of enlightenment of the Buddhas of all times. It is the teacher of the Buddhas. For this reason, all of the enlightened ones are always expounding the teaching in the midst of myriad forms, even as they remain at their own site of enlightenment, which is the light of complete perfect tranquility. It is a matter of valuing ears without devaluing the eyes. This mass of flames of fire is not in front, not behind. It is just total manifestation. To go on degrading yourself and limiting yourself in spite of that, producing objective subjective ideas, producing individual subjective ideas that you are basically an ignorant, ordinary being, you are just a common person with no wisdom, is truly hellish behavior, slandering the wheel of the teaching of the enlightened. The exposition of the teaching by the flames of fire indicated by Sifing and expressed by Yunmen is a direct approach without expedience, without expounding the unexcelled way, bringing out the totality of the teachings of the Buddha's whole lifetime. When Sifing spoke as he did, this was already being burned up in the flames of fire. Do you want to escape? Reciting scriptures, performing prostrations, raising and lowering each foot, everything is the manifestation of the great function of light. There are those who learn to wonder whose grace this depends on, uselessly toiling to quiet thoughts without knowing this hidden essence. There are those who doubt and dismiss the possibility, making a living in a ghost cave. There are also those who go into the ocean to count the grains of sand. There are also those who are like mosquitoes breaking through a paper window. Leaving aside for a moment getting trapped in words, what would be right? Although there is no more leisure time to wash a clod of earth in the mud, students of Zen should first know what is being said when they pose a question. Once we are talking about silent illumination pervading the universe, why should these be the words of a famous poet? Why should they be the words of a Buddha? Why should they be your words? After all, whose words would they be? The communal hall, the Buddha shrine, the kitchen pantry, the mountain gate. Listen clearly. Hear accurately. The great master Chang Sha said to the congregation, "The whole universe is the eye of a practitioner. The whole universe is the family talk of a practitioner. The whole universe is the total body of a practitioner. The whole universe is one's own light. In the whole universe, there is no one who is not oneself." So, penetrating the study of the way of the enlightened requires diligence to learn and faith to attain. Unless you form an alliance with the family of Buddhas lifetime after lifetime, how can you grasp what you hear in a lecture like this? Make sure that you do not become further estranged, and further remote from it. Let's see how many pages are left. We may pause here. Okay. Or we may not pause here. Wow. How many pages have I read so far? Oh, yeah. Okay, we're not pausing there. Okay. Well. My imperfect self needs to have I am cutting back on my cereals. Somebody would be proud. Alright, let's continue for at least another page. Maybe this will get 3 parts, who knows. Now the universe spoken of by Changsha is a single eye of the individual involved in Zen study. The entirety of space is the total body and mind. He does not grasp the holy or reject the ordinary. He does not say that confused people are not so, while enlightened people are thus. What he does is point directly to your own light. Don't defer this to the great master Changsha. This sermon is an all-inclusive talk within your nostrils. A freely adapted practical lesson within your eyes. There are those who specifically bring up old model cones, but never attain insight or knowledge their whole lives. Every one of them is the child of a rich family, but has no breeches. Also, hearing talk of light, ignorant people think of it as the talk of the light of fireflies, like the light of lamps, like the light of the sun and moon, or the luster of gold and pearls, groping for comparisons. Trying to see the shining radiance, they focus on the mind and figure inside the intellect, aiming for it as a realm of utter emptiness and total silence. For this reason they stop movement and take refuge in stillness, or they are unable to relinquish ideas of an actual entity or false ideas of the existence of something to obtain, or their thoughts of inconceivable mystic wonder go on and on unceasingly, and they think too deeply only of its rarity. Such people, rice bags, sleeping with their eyes open, are the only numerous ones. If it were really an inconceivably mysterious matter of such great import, why do you imagine you could reach it by thinking? This is the type of bedevilment, this type of bedevilment characterized by understanding the quiet reflection of the conscious spirit as the sitting of Buddha. This is why the founder of Zen explained that there is nothing holy in openness, and it is not consciously known. To be given such an explanation is something that rarely happens. Zen Master Changsha said, "The reason students of the way do not discern the real is simply that they continue to recognize the conscious spirit. It is the root of infinite eons of birth and death, yet deluded people call it the original." I don't do spam. The original human being. So, pursuit of the pencil we just lost. Dang it, spammy person. So, to cultivate realization based on ideas about your own mind and assumptions about what is to be obtained is to cultivate the root of birth and death. Now the reference made to the real and to the original human being mean the openness of the light that is inherently there and perfectly complete. Outside of the openness of the light, what thing would you try to seek so greedily? Now we will put a pause to that. Okay, there's part B.